So very good evening everyone. Welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy. So we have been discussing 2025 Gender Studies Mains question and answers, and in fact in the past lectures also we have discussed some important themes and those questions which have been revolving around those important themes. So today also we have some more important questions which were asked in Gender Studies Paper 1 of UPSC 2025 Mains exam. So we'll be discussing the structuring, presentation and also the themes which are actually important for our mains preparation, because if you understand the themes, so it actually makes your preparation easy, right? So the question that was asked in 2025 mains exam was, discuss how changes in shape and sizes of continents and ocean basins of the planet take place due to the tectonic movement of the crustal plates. Right, so this is the question that has been asked from the geography portion. Now we all knew that for Gender Studies Paper 1 how geography is very important. So you can expect at least 45 to 50% of the questions from the geography portion itself in Gender Studies Paper 1, right? So for this question we have a model framework also. So for every question you need to have a model framework so that the structuring of the answer would be more impressive, right? So the model framework, so first of all you have to write the introduction, and the introduction should be about the tectonic movement of the crustal masses. So we all knew that the entire planet Earth has a tectonic plates, and these tectonic plates also move as well. So therefore in the introduction itself you just have to briefly introduce about the tectonic movements of these crustal plates. And the body part of the answer, so you have to mention the changes that have been taking place due to the tectonic movements. So the number of changes throughout the planet Earth would take place because of the tectonic movements. For example, rifting and continental breakup. So there are chances that the continents would break up because of the tectonic plate movement, and you should also write about the rifting that actually takes place throughout the continents. And apart from that, a sea floors spreading, and this is also a very important topic in geography, and you need to write about the sea floor spreading and the ocean basin expansion and subduction and ocean basin shrinkages, continental collision and mountain formation, and Wilson cycle, right? So your body part of the answer essentially should comprises all these essential points. Now in the conclusion of the answer you just have to mention that we have ocean basins, and because of the tectonic movement these ocean basins grow or shrink as well, and continents either split or they merge as well. So therefore these changes over the planet Earth takes millions of years, and they actually follow the predictable cycles. So that's how you have to conclude this answer. Now if you go into this topic, first of all you have to write a brief introduction. What exactly is the tectonic movement of the crustal masses? So firstly you have to write about this, the tectonic movement of the crustal masses, in the introduction. So firstly, Earth's lithosphere. Now if we talk about the Earth's lithosphere, now the crust and the upper mantle, right? So crust, mantle, core, so these are the inner parts of the Earth. So when we talk about the lithosphere essentially comprises of the crust and the upper mantle. Now the crust and upper mantle is divided into tectonic plates which move over more fluid asthenosphere, right? So in fact imagine that this is an asthenosphere, and the crust and the upper mantle, it actually consisting of a tectonic plate, and these plates move over a fluid asthenosphere. Now imagine that this is an asthenosphere, but this asthenosphere is fluid in nature. So therefore the crust and the upper mantle have the tectonic plates, and those tectonic plates usually move over the asthenosphere. However, there are different types of movements. So I hope you have, if you read NCERTs about this tectonic plate movements, so you can come across the divergent plate boundaries. Now when we talk about the divergent plate boundaries, that actually means that they move apart. For example, you can see in the image that how the plates are moving apart each other. And there are convergent plate boundaries also. The best example of convergent plate boundary is Indian plate colliding with the Eurasian plate, and as a result Himalayas are being formed, right? So convergent plates move towards each other. And then we have transform plates. Now when I say transform plates, so those transform plates actually slide past each other, right? So they slide past each other, and this is called as the transform plate boundaries and then hotspot dynamics, right? So these are different types of movements in the plate tectonics, and in fact the plate tectonic movements over a period of time on the planet Earth, they actually cause some changes such as deformation, rifting of these continents, subduction. For example, the Indian plate, the Indian plate subduction under the Eurasian plate, and the collision, uplift of, for example, Himalayas are example of uplift, sinking, etc. Right? So these are all changes takes place because of the movement of the tectonic plates, and in fact which over a geological period or geological time period, so they alter the configuration of the continents and ocean basins. Now over a period of time, all these changes have been taking place on the planet Earth, so that will result in the changes in the configuration of the ocean basins or the continents, right? So here you have to understand few things, that these main types of movements are very important, and the movements over a period of time shape, alter or align the continents and the ocean basins, right? So this is how you have to write the introduction, and you should also draw a diagram as well, so that it will be more and more impressive. Now in the body part of the answer, what you have to write. So if we talk about the body part of the answer, now in the basic framework of the question, we have already understood that these are the topics that have to be mentioned in this question. So firstly, you need to talk about the continental rifting and then breakup. Now when I say continental rifting, it actually begins when continental plate is stretched, right? So when tectonic plates or the continental plates have been moving through different directions, so the plates would be stretched. So they are being stretched because of mantle upwelling or divergent forces. So these forces would act on those plates, and that would result in stretching of these continents, right? So a valley or a series of faults would appear because of this stretching. Now the best example, now whenever you write the points, it is very important you also mention the points along with the you also write the examples along with these points. So when the continents are being stretched, they form valleys, right? So the best example for such a valley is East African Rift Valley. So East African Rift Valley is the best example for this. For example, the stretching of Africa has created the rift valleys. For example, Lake Tanganyika. So this is very important for the prelims examination, and this has also formed Lake Malawi. So Lake Tanganyika and Lake Malawi are being formed by the continental rifting breakup, right? So however, over a period of time, the rifting across the continents, the continental crust would further split and new oceanic crust forms in between the enlarging ocean basins as well, right? So whenever such a rifting takes place, either valleys will be formed. However, if such a rifting is too wider, too larger, then new oceanic crust will form, right? So this is about the continental rifting and then breakup. Now you can observe this continental rifting that has been taking place in the African continent across Somalia. So in all those areas, this rifting has been taking place, and eventually it is believed that it will separate from the African continent, right? So there will be new oceanic crust, so that will be formed in this area. And next, sea flow spreading and ocean basin growth. So if we talk about the sea flow spreading and ocean basin growth, now we have understood the divergent plate boundaries, right? So they move apart each other, so which are called as the divergent plate boundaries. Now whenever such divergent plate boundaries are being formed in the oceans, so they form the mid-oceanic ridges, right? So they actually form the mid-oceanic ridges. Now how these mid-oceanic ridges are being formed? When the plate boundaries are moving apart each other, the magma rises and it further solidifies, and then it will form a new oceanic crust in this particular area. And this actually pushes the plates apart, and this would further widen the oceanic basins as well. Now what is the best example of it? Now remember, whenever you write geography answers, it is advised that you should draw the diagrams as well along with your answer. Now the Atlantic Ocean is growing due to the spreading of the Atlantic range. Now in the Atlantic Ocean, so there is a mid-Atlantic ridge, and in fact the Atlantic Ocean is growing because of the presence of mid-Atlantic ridge. So that has been formed by the seafloor spreading and the other geographical phenomenon. In fact, as the ocean basin further grows, right, so we have a ocean basin, and this ocean basin further grows, continent margins drift further apart, and in fact continents also change their shape. They become more curved towards the shorelines, and they have passive margins, and those passive margins will further widen. And next we have to talk about the subduction and ocean basin shrinkages as well. Now when I say subduction, you have the tectonic plates or the continental plates. So one continental plate will move beneath the other continental plate, right? For example, Himalayas are the best example for this. Now in convergent zones, so for example, the Indian plate converged with the Eurasian plate. Now in this context, the convergent zones where the oceanic crust is denser, right? So oceanic crust is denser and it subducts beneath the other plates, right? So in this case, whenever the plate density is high, then it subducts beneath the other plates with a less density, and that will cause the trenches, and that also causes the volcanic arcs, and that often consume the ocean basin area. So for example, the Pacific Ring of Fire. So we all knew that the Pacific Ring of Fire spread across the Pacific Ocean, right? So right from North America, South America, and Micronesia, Polynesia, Indonesia, Philippines, and far east of Russia. So all these areas come together. It is being called as the Pacific Ring of Fire, and the Pacific Ring of Fire is seismically or volcanically very active area, right? So the subduction zones in the Pacific Ring of Fire shrinking parts of the Pacific basin, and in fact this subduction also leads to the uplift of the mountains when continents collide, and they can actually close the basins as well. And the best example for this is the Himalayan mountains are being formed because of the collision between the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate. And then the continental collision and mountain building is also another major important aspect about this. Now when we talk about the continental collision, now again the example is formation of Himalayas. So formation of Himalayas. So Himalayas are known as youngest fold mountains. They are being formed because of the continental collision, and then mountains are formed or mountains are built, right? So when two continental plates they converge with each other, the oceans between them is being closed if there is an ocean. And earlier it was believed that there was an ocean between the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate, and because of the collision between these two plates, the ocean called Tethys was closed, right? So in fact the mountain ranges form as a crust is compressed and uplifted, and the best example would be the Himalayas. Now example is India-Eurasia collision forming the Himalayas, and they have closed the Tethys Sea. Now remember, I've told you that between the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate there was a sea that was existing called Tethys Sea, and because of the continental collision this Tethys Sea disappears and the crust rises, and the crust became the Himalayas, right? So the result was continents grow in some dimensions, their height, their thickness. The ocean basins will disappear or reduce in size as well, right? So in this case Tethys altogether disappeared. And then we need to talk about the supercontinent cycle, or it is also called as the Wilson cycle. Now when we talk about the supercontinent cycle, so it is a cyclic process of opening, rifting, ocean formation, or maturity or maximum basin size, closing, subduction or collision over hundreds of millions of years, and which is called as the supercontinent cycle. And this supercontinent cycle takes hundreds of millions of years to complete. For example, the breakup of Pangaea, a supercontinent. After the breakup of Pangaea, so formation of Atlantic and Indian Oceans, and then eventual future collision also takes place, right? So the shapes and sizes of oceans and the continents vary over these cycles as well, right? So this is how you have to write all these essential aspects, and it is always advised you draw the diagrams along with the content points. And in the conclusion, what you have to write? So in the conclusion of the answer, the shapes and sizes of the continents or ocean basins, they're not fixed, right? So they are not fixed, but they evolve over a geological time through the tectonic processes, right? So they are like continuous and evolving processes. They are not fixed, right? So they also take hundreds of millions of years to complete a particular tectonic process. And in fact, rifting, seafloor spreading, so they actually open new areas, and subduction and collisions close them. Over hundreds of millions of years, this actually leads to cycles of the continental assembly and the continental dispersal, ocean growth, ocean shrinkage, ocean disappearance. So therefore, ultimately, the continental outlines change, the ocean basins expand, they can also contract, and the Earth's geography is dynamically reshaped by the movements of the crustal masses. So nothing is permanent, so everything change. So we are living in the world of change, and geography also, or geologically also, so everything, every continent, every ocean, so they also change over a period of time as well, right? So I hope you have understood this question. And the next very important question that has been asked in the 2025 General Studies Mains Paper 1, discuss how changes in shape and sizes of continents. Right, so we have just discussed about this question, right? So wait, so okay, so discuss how the changes in shape and sizes of the continents and ocean basins of the planet take place due to the, so yes, we have just discussed this question, right? And so the next question, discuss the distribution and density of the population in Ganga River Basin with special reference to land and soil and water resources, right? So if you look at the model framework of this particular question, because you need to have a model framework for every answer, and model framework will help you, write the best answer, help you structure the answer in a proper way, right? So first of all, you have to understand the demand of the question, the core theme of the question. Now it is being said that if you look at the Ganga Valley, or if you look at the Ganga River Basin, there's a huge population density, right? So states like UP and Bihar, there's a huge population, right? So therefore, in this context, we have to discuss the distribution and density of population in the Ganga River Basin with special reference to its land, soil and the water resources, because there's a huge water resources available, and water resources means that it also supports the economic activity, and soil, which is the fertile alluvial soil. So fertile alluvial soil will also support the agriculture in that particular area, right? So availability of land, so all these factors have led to the large scale population explosion in states like UP and Bihar, right? So let's understand the basic framework first. Introduction. The Ganga River Basin is one of the most densely populated regions in the world, right? So you have to provide some data to prove this fact. So how it is the most densely populated areas in the world, and in the body part of the answer you have to write, so the fertile alluvial plains, so they support the intensive agriculture, and soil which is rich in alluvium, and that further encourages the crop diversity. And if we talk about the water resources, so abundant surface and groundwater enable irrigation, and it also sustains high population density as well. And in the conclusion of this answer, you need to write the natural resources richness drives dense population distribution in this area. So this is how you have to structure the answer, because in the question itself they have asked you to write the distribution and density of population with respect to land, soil and the water availability in the Ganga River Basin, right? So now in the introduction, what you have to write, so in the introduction of this particular answer, you have to mention that the Ganga River Basin, which encompasses around 26 to 27 percentage of the India's total geographical area, right? So this is a well-known fact that the Ganga River Basin, which encompasses around 26 to 27 percentage of India's total geographical area, and the Ganga River Basin also covers around 11 states. And in fact, Ganga River Basin also sustains around 40 percentage of India's population as well. So therefore, don't you think that this is world's most densely populated river basin? Of course, this is true that it is world's most densely populated river basin, and the basin's population distribution is linked to the availability of fertile land, productive soils, and the abundant water resources as well. So this is how you have to write the introduction. Now remember that when you write some data in the introduction, it actually creates a very good impression about your answer. And when you write the answer for such questions, it is always advised to draw the diagrams as well, right? So let's understand the population distribution patterns in the Ganga River Basin. Now, if you look at the population distribution in the Ganga River Basin, so the entire Ganga River Basin, we have to divide this into number of parts. So the first one is Upper Ganga Basin. Now, the Upper Ganga Basin consists of states like Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh. Right, so Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh are actually part of the Upper Ganga Basin. And if you talk about the population density of the Upper Ganga Basin in Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, it would be around 150 to 300 persons per square kilometer. Now, what is the main cause of the population density or distribution in the Upper Ganga Basin, or less population density in this particular area? So there are some reasons, those reasons including the rugged terrain. Now if you look at Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, it is a very well known fact that it has a rugged terrain, and apart from that, it also has the forests, limited cultivable area. Now when you have a limited cultivable area, so you cannot live in that particular area, because primarily or predominantly an agricultural dependent society, when you don't have the cultivable area, so people generally don't live in those areas. And apart from that, so all these factors, rugged terrain, forests, and limited cultivable area, so they actually limit or restricted the dense settlement, and population clusters also form in river valleys such as Dehradun and Haridwar, right? So in those areas there are some population clusters, but in the Upper Ganga Basin you can find a scarce population because of these reasons that we have just discussed. And then the Middle Ganga Basin, right? So we should also talk about the Middle Ganga Basin, and this Middle Ganga Basin spread across Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Now if you look at the population density of the Middle Ganga Basin, it would be around 800 to 1100 persons per square kilometers. Now what is the cause of such a huge population density in the Middle Ganga Basin? Now, there are some reasons. For example, the availability of deep alluvial soils. Now deep alluvial soils are called as the fertile soils, and they support the wide agricultural crops as well, so large number of agricultural crops as well. And apart from that, the fertile flat plains available in those areas, right? So instead of rugged mountains, difficult terrain, so and forests, so these areas in the Middle Ganga Basin, there's a flat plains and deep alluvial soils, and continuous water supply for the people and for the agriculture and for the economic activity, and favorable conditions for double and triple cropping, right? So they not just cultivate Kharif and Rabi, and there are chances of cultivating the Jaid season also, right? So that is double and triple cropping, so that encourage the very high population density in the Middle Ganga Basin. And in fact, there are some urban centers like Kanpur, Lucknow, Varanasi, and Patna. So they actually act as a major population clusters in this particular area. Then we need to talk about the Lower Ganga Basin. So if we talk about the Lower Ganga Basins, there are some regions such as West Bengal, and in these areas the population would be around 900 to 1500 persons per square kilometers. So the population density in the Lower Ganga Basin is more than the Middle Ganga Basin. So we should also understand the reasons for the high population density in the Lower Ganga Basin. So apart from having the advantages like deep perennial soils or extensive flat plains or continuous availability of water, there are other reasons also, right? So for example, the fertile deltaic alluvium in that area and abundant irrigation infrastructure availability, water, and dense rural settlements. So all these factors are actually characterizes the lower Ganga basin, and because of this reason there's a huge population density in this area. And in fact, the Kolkata metropolitan region supports over 15 million people, right? So supporting around 15 million people benefiting from the port facilities and also the fertile lands as well. So that's how the upper Ganga basin, middle Ganga basin, and lower Ganga basin have a different characteristics, and those characteristics have defined the presence of population in those respective areas. Now let's understand the it is being said that land, soil, and water availability. So these are also main reasons for the distribution and also density of the population across 3 different areas of the Ganga basin. So if we talk about the land resources availability, as I've already told you, apart from the upper Ganga basin, the middle and the lower Ganga basins though have extensive and flat alluvial plains. And the flat alluvial plains actually support agriculture and dense settlement of people. And in fact, there are also extensive irrigation networks and double triple cropping, for example Kharif, Rabi, and Zaid seasons, and they can actually increase the population carrying capacity of that particular land. And then we have to talk about the soil resources which are existing. For example, these areas have a deep alluvial soils. Now we all knew that these deep alluvial soils are rich or fertile soils, and they can also support a wide variety of crops as well, right? So in fact, the fertility of the deep alluvial soils is being replenished by the annual floods. So therefore it supports the staple grains, oilseeds cultivation, cash crops. So ultimately it drives the rural dense populations. And in fact, the soil resources are less fertile, skeletal soils in upland Himalayan tracts. So they actually explains the sparser settlement there, the upper Ganga basin such as Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. And then we need to talk about the water resources. So when we talk about the water resources, there are some perennial rivers. So for example, Ganga is itself a perennial river, so water flow throughout the year, and extensive canal system or irrigation availability, ample groundwater resources. So all these factors ensures reliable or continuous irrigation for the crops, right? So there will be no drought, so there will be a reliable irrigation in those areas. So therefore making rural and urban settlement viable throughout the basin. And in fact, over 276,000 water bodies, nearly 800 large dams support the agricultural and urban water needs as well, right? So you should mention the land resources, soil resources, and water resources, how they have influenced the distribution and also density of the populations as well with the relevant data. And ultimately in the conclusion, so you have to write that the Ganga river basin, so that provides favorable natural resources, and that has led to the distribution and density of the population in India. In fact, the Ganga river basin has fertile soil, abundant water, and in fact the arable land as well. So these factors have come together and they support a huge population density and distribution of the population, and in fact they also ensure the food security of our country, right? So that's all in this class, and thank you so much. And if you like our class, please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. Thank you.